Greetings YouTube, Captain Machine here, back for another video, and today it's going to be a video response to woodwwad's conversational topic about Dungeons and Dragons and battle mats and such and so forth, and whether or not people out there use them. And the answer is yes, I do use them. However, I do tend to find that battle mats are very polarising. Some people love them, some people hate them. I tend to fall in the middle because there are certain things I will never use a battle mat for. I'm going to try and explain that for you. I'm going to make it quick as well, because last time I tried filming this it took like 15 minutes, and no one's going to listen for 15 minutes for me rambling about a bloody battle mat. So, what games I will never use a battle mat for? Get those out of the way first of all. When it comes to a very loose, not very mechanical, not very crunchy rule system, like say Call of Cthulhu or World of Darkness, something like that, I will never ever use a battle mat for, because I honestly feel that the theatre of the mind aspect of it is too important to lose. Yes, I'll draw a battle mat, occasionally draw a sketch map, what's going on. I might even go as far as drawing it on a piece of graph paper to give you a rough idea of distances and things like that. But to be honest with you, beyond that, no, not at all. Because I like the idea of being loose and free with the distances and times travel, things like that, because, you know, I like to keep it fluid and motion and things like that. If I'm running, say, a superhero game using the Savage World rules, then again, I like to use that because I tend to find that that works quite well. Also, another thing is the genre and what you're doing. If you're playing a modern day game where people are going to be having rifles, like a modern day military game, or near future or sci-fi, where you have access to long range weapons, so like I'm trying to think, Twilight 2000, in fact any of the Wiseman games really, Shadowrun, some of the 40k games, like especially, what's it called, Deathwatch. They'll never use a battle mat, because the scale of which you can reasonably expect to fight your opponents varies quite considerably. Because if you're using a battle mat with a standard scale, then unless you've got a massive battle mat that's like literally 4 or 5 feet long, then you're in a situation where you're only going to be dealing with things at pistol range. And you have two choices of how to go about dealing with this. You can either have two battle mats, one for where you are, one for your opponent is, and assume that the space in the middle is full of almost nothing. You can scale everything back to the point where the 1 inch is 5 foot no longer applies anymore. It can be considerably bigger than that, and I tend to find that either results in one or two things: either the board itself is very busy, or you have these situations where you have a lot of dead space which no one will dare cross because they get shot, and people will literally just form firing lines against each other, and it rather drags combat down to just who will roll the better dice in cover. So yeah, that's also the other thing I won't use it for either. But I will use it for any of the D&D games out there, be it 1st edition, 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 3.5, Pathfinder or 4th edition. I will definitely use for, even if I'm using the offshoot-offs like the retro clothes or a Hackmaster, I will definitely use it for. Sorry, I've got a bit of a itchy nose today. So yeah, because I do feel that in the majority of those cases, your relative position to what's going on around you is very important, especially in 3rd edition onwards, because you've got feats and skills and combat rules and spells which are radically affected by your positioning and how far you are from your opponent, or how far your opponent is away from you or from other people around you. It's no more so true when you've got wizards of casting fireballs and chain lightnings and all the rest of it. So that is my opinion, because you are losing a lot. I understand the whole theatre of the mind thing, and that's why when I'm using a rules light system, I will never use a battle mat. But when I'm using a rules heavy system, and something that you usually find to play up close, then yes, I will always use a battle mat if I can get one in. Even to the point where I'm playing like Hellfrost, I use a battle mat for Hellfrost, because I feel that the average range you are engaging your opponent at are such short ranges that it makes sense. Plus, in all of those circumstances, you are going to get an actual benefit out in terms of your play out of actually having the battle mat there, because the amount of times I've tried to play without a battle mat and I'm constantly being asked, how far am I away from my opponent? How far is away from me? Can I take a 5 foot step away from him? Is he next to that other guy? And so on and so forth. And you can. These are all questions you'll get asked time and time again, especially by people that want to use the rules. They want to be able to make the 5 foot step. They want to be able to cast the fireball and catch as many bad guys as possible. They want to be able to run up to a friend and cast a heal spell on them after taking a big hit from a bad guy. So these are all questions you're going to get asked on a regular basis if you do not have that battle mat there. And I tend to find that the separation that some players experience from their character because they've got a model on the table is worth it, because it saves a lot of time, a lot of effort and a lot of energy. Plus, the argument that you do have that separation once your model hits the table, I tend to find a bit lackluster. Granted, you're now able to perceive the world in a three-dimensional space because you've got a model in front of you, but it's no different to having, say, a sketch map in front of you, which are fairly common. A lot of people do use those in their games, and the only difference here is you've got a definitive answer. You can say, well, you don't have to ask the GM, can I move this far? You know how far you can move because the rules say you can move so far, and you've got the grid in front of you and you can calculate it yourself and you can move yourself without having to refer to the GM and say, can I move up to the bad guy this turn, or can I go to here, or can I go to there? Plus, if you can't separate yourself from the model, how on earth do you separate yourself from the character sheet? Because the two abstract methods of recording the exact same thing. One records your character in terms of its physical attributes and its ability. The other one records your character in relative space to other things around him. So they're just two sides of the same coin, and I can't understand why one is so distracting while the other one isn't. And finally, really, if you're in a situation where you're surrounded by wargamers, and I typically am because a lot of my friends are wargamers, they absolutely love using a battle map, because the honest truth is they can work their way around it. They can work out strategies, they can outflank their opponents, they can do frontal charges, they can get behind cover when they're taking fire. They love doing that sort of thing, and who's to say they're not having fun? And if you're having fun, then by all means. If you are one of these people that does not enjoy using a battle map, I'm not here to tell you that you are doing anything wrong, because everyone's opinion to themselves. But I think that if you're playing D&D of any variety, you owe it to yourself to at least play it with a battle map. Same again, I suppose, with things like any sort of fantasy setting for Savage Worlds, Rollmaster, Exalted, I guess, maybe. Any sort of those medieval games where your average range you are engaging people is at a few hundred feet. Or when you might be dungeon crawling, say for example Warhammer, or I'm trying to think outside the box now. I'm looking through my actual role-playing collection to see if there's anything else I can think of, and I am struggling. I'll leave it at that. Okay, so that's my opinion. I honestly think that the four defining factors when it comes to battle maps are your budget, your how much space you've got to store it, because in some cases that can be quite an important factor, the group of people you're with, and also the game you're playing. If most of those boxes get ticked for you, then go all means, get a battle mat. Gives you a chance to explore the game outside of just the books, outside just your character sheet, outside just the role-playing aspect. I mean, there's nothing more fun than painting your own character model. There's nothing more fun than going to a convention or exploring a website and finding a model which is just right for your next character and getting him all ready and all painted up. Or if as a GM, if you've got a big bad guy for your campaign, a big evil nasty bad guy, and finding a model for him, and so you can place him on the table, and when you describe him, people can see him and things like that. Fantastic experience. So theatre mind is one thing, but when you show somebody something else, it cements it. Everyone else can see the same thing. Okay guys, thanks for your time. See you later.